Gage, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Ball. Any discussion? None being heard, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The student rep report, Ms. Earhart.
Over Thanksgiving break, Kingsfire Church donated the majority of turkeys as well as some community members. We supported and contributed 22 families with the turkey and all the fixings. The junior, senior high nurses and Miss Com organized retrieving all the turkeys and fixings and distributed them to the district from the high school. Over Christmas break, we partnered with Saugerties Council of Churches and referred the following. The junior, senior high nurses referred 19 families, Cahill 65 families, Grantee Morse 10 families, Riccardi 25 families. As a school, Grantee Morse staff adopted and provided an outfit and 2 toys each for 33 students. For the Sawyer Motors Toy Express, all schools gave many invitations to families to attend and pick up toys, electronics for the Saugerties community. Knights of Columbus donated and distributed many ham/turkey dinners to the Saugerties community. All referrals were made in support teams in the school. In addition, Spectrum News came to do a story on our SCORE store. The SCORE store continues to support families in our community. More information can be found on the senior high website and press activities for the free store. Families can see store hours and order forms. The SCORE store is holding a clothing drive for formal and semi-formal attire. Science Love units went to an invitational on Saturday. We competed against schools throughout New York. We placed first in Scrambler, second place in It's About Time, third place in Solar Power, and sixth place in Detector. The off-color singers, the Songbirds, and the senior high choir were invited to perform at the swearing-in of Senator Hinchy. Students had the opportunity to meet both Senator Hinchy and Senator Schumer.
Thank you. Ms. Keller, you're on.
We have a mic I could borrow? Sure. I'm loud enough. I just want to make sure the kids. No, take yours? Oh, you don't want it?
Always
Please give it up.
This one, Ms. Keller.
Oh.
And I also want to thank you for your years of service to see Ms. Keller's last board presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Reinhardt. I wasn't nervous about this until like 10 minutes ago. Now I'm a little nervous, and I don't know why. So I just want to welcome everybody to Riccardi. This is actually where I started 22 years ago in this district as a 3rd grade teacher. And it's kind of ironic that this is where I'm going to finish up. But you know, the stars aligned, and this is what's going to be right for my family. So I'm really excited about that. But what I'm excited about tonight is we have some friends here with me, and we're going to do a little presentation about what's been happening at Riccardi School. So tonight we just want to go over some key things that have been happening, talk about the transition to this new school year since we've restructured our schools, the building leadership team, and we have some student representatives from the 5th and 6th grade that are on the building leadership team. They're going to share with you some data and goals, and how we've been working on creating a community, student engagement, and support. And we also have our student government here, and they'll share some things about student engagement. So the transition from last year to this year, we had about 350 students last year. We have 429 students this year. The students that were coming to Riccardi this fall started with a field day last June, so they were able to come over and they were able to get familiar with the school, familiar with some of the students and some of the staff members. Part of the transition, we've been able to partner with Family of Woodstock. They do restorative circles. It aligns with Tier 1 of MTSS, and it helps to build relationships and create safe spaces for students, so when they're feeling in any kind of way, they can share those things. They talk a lot about their feelings in those circles. Of course, we continue with grand rounds. This is one of my babies, along with Sue Gage, who really started this, and it's really taken on a whole new life, and it's a great way to talk about the whole child. We had some observations from district personnel come over to Riccardi School and watch how we do our grand rounds so that we can continue those and be consistent throughout the rest of the district. Some logistical things, arrival and dismissal. So on that first day of school, we had a lot more kids, right? A lot more cars too, a lot more buses. So that first day, arrival, actually the first week with arrival and drop off of students, they didn't get inside until probably 9:05. Our day starts at 8:45, so we knew that we had to do something to sort of speed up the process. So we worked very closely with the staff members, Mrs. Longendijk, who is outside. If you've ever come in the morning or in the afternoon, you know she's out there. She's got those big gloves on, she's waving people on, she's got the buses moving. It's great. So we are able now where we have our students come and they are inside on time every day. Dismissal on the first day, 70 minutes in the car line. Yes, 70 minutes in the car line. And that was 70 minutes after the buses left. That's a long time for parents to be waiting. However, I will say with that, there's a reason for 70 minutes. We wanted to make sure that every kid that was getting into a car was with the person they were supposed to be with. So there's a certain protocol set up with the emergency sheets that had who was allowed to pick that child up with pictures, and we had to make sure that we could identify the right person with the right student. That's down to 17 minutes now, about, on average, 17 minutes after the buses leave. So we have a pretty good system. And again, Mrs. Longendijk is out there and she's calling on those kids. And she is saying, you know, first students in, Smith in the first car, Jones in the second car, and they're able to get in, and we take the students right to the car, put them in the cars, and they're able to go. So that's a big difference. So I think we've had it we're doing pretty well there. We've been able to return to in-person assemblies, PTA events, band and chorus concerts. We had our first winter band concert last month, and that was amazing. We have our extended day program. At the beginning of the year, probably in October-ish, we did a transition survey, and I have just a few comments I wanted to add about the transition survey, and that was something that Ms. Jean Greco put together for all of us. And we also have had our social worker and our psychologist support. So some of the things on the survey, these are some of the responses. I love all the new kids and teachers. Me and my friends are making new friends, and we like the old ones that came to this school. And then there's a conversation. This was kind of funny. One boy came in and he says, "What is that noise? It sounds like thunder." And the teacher said, "It's just the kids upstairs." So for some of our students at Mount Marion, they've never had a second floor, so they've heard these noise, you know, the banging of the kids, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, what is that?" And then my favorite, "You're a little older. You were my father's teacher." That's what a child said to me. Yeah. So as you can see, we have some great happenings here, from Halloween to some of our targeted PD. You can see Mrs. Fisher there. She's really excited about that. We did an activity together, and some of our students of that won quarterly awards. So now, as we get into our data, I know that we wanted to take a look at where we were last year. So we have our September and our June data, and this is our reading data. And you can see from September to June, we made great progress there. We have a lot more students. 63% students were on grade level or above grade level. And when we started out the year, we have 30% of our students that were on or above grade level. The next slide shows us the domains for ELA, and these are the specific domains. And the top thicker line is the data from June, and the thinner line beneath that shows you where we started in September. So you can see which domains we made more progress in. And this is going to be significant as we start to talk about our math data. So again, this is September, so our pre-diagnostic last year in September, and our pre-diagnostic this year in September. And we thought that this was significant to share with you because last year we had 16% of our students on or above grade level at the start of the year. This year, we actually had 36%. And you can see the green is much larger. And so I asked the students who were on the BLT, why do you think that is? And they really said because whatever it was that we did last year, small group, more targeted instruction, helped to provide the students with a deeper understanding. So this is knowledge that they were able to retain. So what does that mean? Let's take a look at the math data. So the math data, same thing, September to June, we made great growth. And then if you look at the specific domains, you can see that we started out, number and operations, we were really struggling there. That was our weakness. So we were focusing on that last year, and we made great gains in that. So when we were looking at data this year, I asked the students, you know, I want you to try to take a look and see what it is that you notice. So September from last year and September from this year, you can see that we started out pretty much the same. We had 16% of our students last year with the pre-diagnostic on or above grade level, and this year we had 19%, where if you remember in reading, we had a much larger percentage of students that performed this year. So we're looking for that same deeper understanding in math like we found in ELA. So our building leadership team, it's a group of school-based individuals that use this data to address the challenges of meeting the needs of all learners. And our goal is to improve practices, instruction that will provide a structure and a process designed to transform teaching and learning. So it's made up of students, staff, some parents, members of the community, and the principal. And we have some student representatives for the first time here that I'm going to introduce to you, and they're going to share with you what they noticed. So I'm going to have Eddie, you want to come up? And you'll notice this is what we noticed. So as we were looking at the domains, one of the things that we noticed was that geometry was something we wanted to focus on, and they're going to explain a little bit more about that to you.
Hello and good evening, Board of Education. My name is Eddie Mancusi and I'm a student representative of the building leadership team. We are here to tell you how we decided to focus on math, specifically geometry. After reviewing our student math diagnostic results, we have noticed that geometry is our weakest area. We had a discussion, and as the building leadership team, we have decided to focus on strengthening this area. Hi, my name is Daniel Ersick. I'm a student representative of the building leadership team. We looked at the data from our math diagnostic from the beginning of the school year and found that geometry was our weakest area school-wide. We looked at how students scored last year at the beginning of the year and then what growth they made and decided we could do a bit better. So we decided to set a goal for 50% of our students to be grade level or above by the end of this year. We want to help all students reach this goal.
Hello, my name is Levi MacDougall and I'm a member of the building leadership team. We have discussed and brainstormed ideas for activities to strengthen the knowledge of students in our school. Some of the activities that we came up with are geometric shapes scavenger hunt, build a robot with geometric shapes class contests, and strategically placing shapes for our students to use as directional points throughout the school building, and geometry vocabulary word of the day.
Hi, my name is Emily Sauer, and I am a representative of the building leadership team at Riccardi. As you already know, one of our main goals for this year is geometry. We are hoping to meet this goal, but we also have a stretch goal. We are hoping that the activities that we do help students gain a deeper understanding of geometry so that when we begin school next year and in years to come, we can have a higher percentage of students on grade level at the beginning of the year. Thank you for your time and have a good rest of your evening.
So that's our SMART goal, our first SMART goal. We've set a goal. Riccardi School will have 50% of its students performing on or above grade level in the area of geometry by June of 2023. Our plan is to really focus on building vocabulary, so through these activities that these students have brainstormed and come up with, we are hoping that we can strengthen the application of geometry and its principles through a variety of these activities. I will say one of the other things that these students wanted to do was they want to have an assembly. They want to have an assembly when we start this to let the other children know that this is what our goal is and that this is what they determined our goal is. So as they see the geometry and they hear the word of the day on the announcements, that they really think about that so that we can meet our goal by the end of the year. So that was all student driven and I'm really proud of them for that. Our second SMART goal is still in progress. We've been working on our first SMART goal. However, we have reviewed behavioral data related to social emotional learning, specifically related to bus transportation. We're working towards creating a community on each bus in an effort to reduce the number of bus referrals. So we've explored a program called the Peaceful School Bus, and we plan on developing our second SMART goal at this month's meeting. So some of the things that we've done to create a community in this school is we have what we call the Woot Woot Wagon, which is my favorite. We go around the school and Woot Woot is a big, we say it every day because it's just fun. We do staff drawings, monthly breakfast, themed activities, a December to Remember, which was a it's like Spirit Day every day during the month of December, and it was so much fun. We got to dress in different ways. We had little hats and sparkles, and I think, Mr. Reinhardt, didn't you come one day with an ugly sweater or something? No? Okay. Our summer reading challenge, we have to thank Ms. Murphy for that. Our PTA has put on some really great events, including our trunk or treat. Thanks to Amanda Kovacs, who did our winter literacy night. That was a great event. It was academically based. We had 120 students and their families attend over 2 nights, 2 evenings, over 25 staff members and maybe even their spouses, and we even had 1 Board of Education member who participated and read. We also had our turkey trot this year, which was really cool, and our book fair. So the book fair was back and we were able to have that. Some of the things that we provide for student support, again, we have Grand Rounds, our extended day enrichment program. We have lunch friendship group, social circles, restorative circles, an evidence-based program called Too Good for Drugs. There's a student-driven book club that some of our 5th and 6th graders have asked the librarian to host at the end of the day, and they wanted to pick the topic and the book that they wanted to read together. We're grateful this year that we have a full-time social worker, a full-time psychologist, and a full-time librarian. We were able to work on a schedule this year that provided for grade level intervention and enrichment services, and each month we do faculty and staff targeted PTA. So now let's meet our student government. Student government is separate of the BLT. They are more in line of providing voice for students as to the kind of activities or the kind of things that they would like to do at school. So we're going to start with Reese. You want to come up, Reese?
Hello, I am Reese Stewart and I am the Student Government President. My job is important because I keep our meetings every Tuesday after school moving along and productive. Last year when I was the Vice President, I started a pen pal program for grades 2 through 6. Students in those grades were matched up with another Riccardi student. The pen pal program was a great way for kids to meet and make new friends in the building. It was requested again for this year since it was so popular last year.
How about Michael?
I'm Michael Bakamuza and I'm the party treasurer. My job is important because I'm in charge of the money and funds of the school, as well as Spirit Days. The student government also participates in community service projects. The student government collects pop tabs for the Ronald McDonald House in Albany on a continual basis. Since the Riccardi families have been so gracious to keep the pop tabs flowing in, this service project was chosen because unfortunately many families in Saugerties have had to use this faculty while a loved one was hospitalized.
Mia?
Hello, I'm Mia Mendez and I'm the secretary. My job is to take notes and record our meeting dates and what we work on. The 5 officers meet every Tuesday under the direction of Mrs. Pettit. We brainstorm ideas for monthly spirit days and community service projects. A group of important people that the student government thanks every year are the bus drivers. Every May we host a breakfast to thank them for their patience and dedication to our students. This gives the officers a chance to actually meet and talk with the bus drivers.
Come on up, Kyle.
Hi, my name is Kyle Betterton and I am the Vice President. As officers, we also get to act as masters of ceremonies at our annual Veterans Day Assembly. We enjoy thanking the men and women who have served and continue to serve our country. We were so happy to have our local heroes visit in person this year so we could thank them.
And last but not least.
Hi, I am Olive McGill and I am the social director. It is my job to make sure that Riccardi students get to show their school spirit. We love creating spirit days for the students and staff at Riccardi. This year, I planned a school spirit activity instead of a spirit day. I encourage students in grades kindergarten through grade 6 to create a page to be included in our student-created joke book. Student government officers are working on the finishing touches and can't wait to present it. As you can see, my fellow officers and I like to be busy. As the school year progresses, I'm sure you will hear a lot more about the things we are up to.
Thank you. That's our student government. So to wrap things up, some of the things that we're doing for student engagement is, of course, we have our student government and our student representatives on BLT. We have students guest host in the morning for our announcements. Band and chorus are integrated into the school day. We have sports intramurals, extended day enrichment activities. Again, we have our book club, school spirit days, and we have a lunch bunch or lunch with the principal, which is always fun. So that's what I have for you, and it's been great updating you. So if anybody has any questions. Okie dokie. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. You don't have to stay if you don't want to, but you're more than welcome to.
Where are you guys going?
Right here, Levi. You can sit right there, buddy. See you later, Levi. We're moving to public recognition. Any member of the public wishing to come up and comment on items on today's agenda, please approach the podium. Nobody heard, we'll move along. Mr. Reinhardt.
Good evening and thank you. I just want to give a quick update on the Cahill. Once again, as always, we start everything we do with our goal for the district: student achievement, culture, climate, community, and safety and security. So first of all, I want to thank the faculty and staff throughout the entire district. As most of you know, around 5-something on Christmas Day, we were alerted that there was a broken pipe and a leak at Cahill. By the time I got there was probably well over 20 of our custodial and maintenance staff helping us. Jeremy did a great job, and by 8 o'clock that night we had made contact with a corporation that does cleaning and reconstruction. So it was really impressive. I mean, when I first showed up and I saw the water running down the stairs, I was concerned. No, seriously, I was. So once again, there was a few teachers that were directly impacted. One of our special ed teachers who, luckily, I mean, if it had to happen, it was a place in the building. There are our 5-6 co-teach. We have a special ed teacher that does pullouts, a special education teacher that does the co-teaching model 3-4. Once again, a K2, and then 2 of our speech teachers. I want to give Shannon a lot of credit. Shannon also was there Christmas night, and she reached out right away, got in touch with those staff members, and was able to make a plan for us to be ready to go. This isn't a great picture, but if you look at this, if you look at the top left, that's that hallway that is the southwest quadrant of the building that's on the same side of the street as the diner. So if you can visualize the pipe breaking on the 3rd floor, flooding the 2 rooms on the hallway, on the 2nd floor, the 2 rooms on the hallway below that, and then that basement room, and obviously the hallway and the elevator shaft. So there's some of the pictures from that night. The water came down right through the ceiling, a lot of ceiling tiles in the lighting and the electricity. This is the basement room, which I thought was really unique about this is, as most of you know, I was a physics teacher. So behind the wall, when they took everything out, there are arches. That's why are you laughing at Dan?
No reason.
Long time ago. Talk about Miss Kelder. I had Mr. Wells back in the 90s. So, but it was really cool. So I don't know if we can do it or not, but we have asked the company, and we asked at facilities meeting, what that is behind there is a storage area. If there's any way to maintain those arches, because it is pretty impressive. So we did ask the facilities and the architects to look at that for us. Next slide. So here's some more of that. I don't know what that is, but that was in the hallway to Cahill. I'm not sure if that was like a coal shaft or something, but that was pretty cool. And that there is part of the hallway on the 1st floor. And if you look at the right side, that was, I think that was Tuesday morning, the 27th. That's how far they had gotten. And when we met with them, you know, my expectation was, whatever you do, we have to open safely on the morning of January 2nd. So myself, Jane, Dan, Randy, and Shannon, we did a walkthrough with the company, and that's 11 o'clock on January 1st or January 2nd, I can't remember. The 2nd. We opened on the 3rd. So that was what they had done. They've done an amazing job. So that's that, go back a second, Dan, sorry. The reason why that hallway is so important, that's the major way to get from the main part of the building into the cafeteria area. So we insisted that regardless of what happened, that hallway had to be open prior to students coming in. Thanks a lot to Randy, we were able to get BOCES in the building at 6:18 on the morning, Tuesday morning, so BOCES could do their inspection so we could open up. So the focus of work going forward is, as you know now, they have to work nights because the students are in the day, but then they're getting there every day at 4 o'clock. So the next important is the 2nd floor hallway. Once again, that's another way of getting from the main part to the back of the building to get to the library and the cafeteria. The next set is we want those 2nd floor classrooms back. The next priority is the 1st floor classrooms. And then the last thing we told the company to work on is the basement hallway and that last classroom. So the last they had told us that facilities was that they're hoping that that 2nd floor hallway will be turned back over to us next Tuesday. So the company's done an amazing job. And once again, our teachers, their flexibility, Shannon coming in, and obviously, as everybody knows, our maintenance and custodial staff is the best around. So it was crazy for a couple days, but we're open and the building is safe, and we're progressing, and we're hoping that the entire job is done in about 6 weeks. Any questions from any on the board? No? All right, thank you.
Hi, I just wanted to go over a few more points on the budget vote. I know it was discussed at a previous meeting, but I think there's a few things that maybe didn't come through well enough. One of the biggest problems we're having is the availability of the staffing to staff the 4 buildings. Last year, or last May, at one of our buildings, we only had 1 out of the 4 show up in the morning because they had illness or emergency. So we had to shuffle around some of our other locations. We really like to have 4 at a minimum per building, so that's 2 to work with the registration and incoming folks, and then 2 ballot masters to work with the machine. And a lot of the ballot masters are more, let's say, experienced, and there's not a lot of new replacements coming in to fill in where those older folks are leaving and retiring from it. Also, there's always a lot of confusion every year among voters on which is the correct polling site for them. Last year alone, we had 50 affidavit ballots, and most of the affidavit ballots are people coming into one location thinking that's where they're supposed to be voting, and it's not actually the right building, so they fill out an affidavit ballot vote, and that gets counted later after we double check that they didn't sign in at another location. We did do an exit survey after the vote last year, and we asked the question, would it deter you from voting if there were only one poll site location, such as a senior high? We had 191 responses, and 130, or 68%, said that it would not deter them from voting if there were only one site available. I do know that there's a few larger districts. My previous district that I worked in was 145 square miles of a district, and we are only 75, and we only ever had one poll site location, and it was always a pretty consistent number of votes each year. The only time we experienced more voters if there was some sort of issue or there was a lot running for board seats. And I do know there's a few districts in Ulster that only have one polling site. I know Rondout Valley, they're about 150 square miles, they have one site. Highland has another, and I know some of the other district business officials expressed the same frustration that we have here with the lack of workers. And I just wanted to mention that in 2020, when we sent out 13,970 ballots, we only actually received 3,796 back in the mail. So we only received 27% back when people actually got the ballot at their house and only had to put it back in the mail. And then for the past couple of years, we've had about between 1,000 and 1,100 or so voters vote each year. Again, I just wanted to reiterate that we just have a limited amount of resources to support 4 buildings and 4 different polling places.
Jane, when do we have to make a decision on this by?
I'm not sure. Before we hire people.
Yeah, that's what we said. You have some time.
And I know we've talked about this for years. I think it was a pet project of Ms. Mascow who brought it up originally. How much money would we save the district by going from one polling place?
So, right now, I think we had it at about $10,000 around that, and let's see, it would probably go down to probably about 7, just looking at this quick. So, and again, it's not really about saving the money and being cheap in this, and I don't want to discourage any voters. It's just that if we don't have enough people to support what we're supposed to have running each of those sites, then how can we have that many sites?
And we have no trouble getting the machines from the Board of Elections for those sites?
Not yet, but I thought there was discussion on moving to them buying different machines. So then it would be, who knows how to use those machines, have they been trained? So that could present another problem.
Thank you.
Bob, do we have an opportunity for questions as well, or?
Yes.
Yeah. Jane, 191 folks that you indicated participated in the survey, and I know that at the very least this last election was probably over 1,200, if not 1,300 people participated in the election, so it's really a dismal return on the survey. Do we have any indications, or has there been any suggestion that we could try to put an announcement out to the district sharing some of these concerns in advance, as well as working with the Board of Elections to try to see how the district can assist in securing additional ballot masters and people to work the elections? It's a two-part question. I don't think the survey is really of any substance, not in my opinion, given the sample size. So what steps have we taken, or can we take, working with the department with the Board of Elections to try to remediate this lack of employees?
I believe we work with them every year, and we get a list of elections workers that are hired through County Board of Elections to do other elections within the county. So that's where we get our names from to begin with.
Okay.
So we do work with them annually.
Okay. So I guess one of the things I was just kind of thinking out loud, and curious about is if there's a way that we can internally, meaning in Saugerties School District, beat the bushes with our community members, letting them know, again, what is at risk once more, since a lot of people perhaps are not aware that it's an issue, and perhaps seeing, if overall the community can contribute to the conversation, either A, by giving a little bit more feedback than we currently have, or B, saying, hey, yeah, it just so happens I know my aunt would love to do that, or I just happen to have a lot of time now, I'm retired, I'd love to do that, that kind of thing. Just some thoughts,
I hear what you're saying, yep. And I do want to point out that last year was the first year that we actually did the exit survey.
Yeah.
So I'd love to continue that each year, and we could get some good questions possibly answered, and maybe once people get used to it, filling it out, or are aware of that we would get more feedback from that. Plus, we could potentially do a survey online, I would think. I'm not sure if we've done that before to the community.
I'm just sharing the questions and the thoughts. I've already shared my sentiments. I think having the voting locations, and I understand there's money implications. I understand all these implications you're describing. I have, an opinion that, having these polling places within the school communities themselves, is just a little bit more continuity and connection between the community, the school, the ramifications of the budget vote, and things along those lines that I think are important. Thank you.
Jane, I have a question too. Will there be more confusion this year about polling places? Specifically, what are the 4 places? Is it still going to be Mount Marion, Cahill, and Saugerties?
Well, I think that's to be decided.
Okay.
But we did have a little bit of confusion. We had some people calling our office about whether Mount Marion was still open as a polling site last May.
Right. Or for
so-
families who got redistricted, will their polling place be at their new elementary school or their old elementary school?
No, the same as it was.
Okay,
So I
so
think that-
even though they're going to a different elementary school, their polling place will be where they were previously attending?
Right.
Okay, all right, so that to me is going to potentially cause confusion of where people are going to go to vote this year, so that's another thing I think that we need to probably consider when thinking, do we do one central location where everyone
That would
knows
eliminate
that's
the
where you're going?
confusion. Yep.
And then just in my perspective in regards to people voting, I know we don't have a huge turnout of voters, but would this be something where we might get more kids to vote because they're gonna, if it's at the senior high school, now you have 18-year-olds who are seniors who maybe,
Yeah.
they're not in school usually that day because it's superintendent conference day, but if sporting events or things like that, you may get maybe a better turnout or a different perspective of
At my
turnout.
previous school district, we, you know, the social studies classes would bring down the kids that were old enough, and they would vote. It was in the high school, so.
I have usually events those days as well, track meet, lacrosse thing.
Right, there's always something going on in junior, senior high.
I'm along with Elaine Maskell, who started this. I love the one spot. There's no confusion then, but in my previous district, we always did it at high school. We had a Books barbecue. We had kids from every school come up and display artwork or their bands perform. And I just think it's
Right,
a
like
great
it's a
way
whole
to
community event.
bring the community together all in one spot.
Yeah.
So and these numbers are showing us that that's kind of where we're trending, but I totally support that.
I had a conversation with Mr. Reinhardt before the meeting started, and we were talking about coming out of the pandemic, how things have changed. Like, for example, when we used to meet here at Riccardi for a board meeting, there'd be food out, and at the break, the community would get together and talk to the board members informally. And I think coming out of the pandemic, it's a good time to look at how we interact with the public. You know, whether we do one polling place or not. There used to be kids in session when there was elections, and the kids would have fundraisers going on. I don't have all the answers to that, but I think this would be a nice time to start to revisit how we want to interact with the public in our schools. Board meetings at election time and other events, so forth. And maybe we get back to some online surveys. We could have we have the capability of Pandora. We could do a survey of the month, just a question of here's the question, how do we want the public to interact? So I would like to get back to having more contact with the public, whether through elections or events like this.
No.
We move into board member remarks. Go ahead.
Anywhere? All right, I'm not going to use the microphone. Please let me raise your hand if you can't hear me. I just want to thank all the district's employees that came in with what happened in Cahill on Christmas Day to give up their holiday and that whole week and to get this school back in shape for our students to come back. Kudos to all of those people. Thank you to the PTA here tonight at Riccardi. I know there's some really good food in one of the rooms over there. And is Carol still here? I am. Thank you. Here you are. Thanks for your years of service. You're going to be a great loss to this district, but I know you're doing so many other things in the community that you can put your 110% into that, but you will be missed. Oh, and I just want to say, it wasn't just me with Grand Rounds. G. Michael Apostle started this with me, so I just want to give him the recognition that he also deserves from when we started Grand Rounds. So that's it for me.
Thank you, Mr. Tillman. First and foremost, Happy New Year to everyone, and again, it's hard to not want to thank those folks that came in during the holidays to repair that school. That's an amazing thing. I think we all agree, and that includes Mr. Reinhardt. I don't know that you could possibly plan a more calamitous event to happen on an actual holiday if you wanted to, but kudos to everyone, and that can't be emphasized enough. Congratulations to the building leadership team here specifically. I appreciate the students that are involved, and thank you to Mrs. Kelder and all of those students. It's a very meta thing to think that students are reviewing the very data that they have been a part of producing, and then thinking about ways to change and influence that data, which in and of itself is a pretty significant skill set and way to help kids develop and challenge their own learning. So that's really fantastic. Thank you. And kudos to all those student government officers. It's nice to see familiar faces and familiar names. Even if I don't necessarily recognize the students, I oftentimes will recognize parents, or in some cases even grandparents. So it's nice to see that when we're here at our elementary schools. 19 years ago, I had the opportunity, very briefly, 3 months I think, to serve as an interim principal here in Riccardi, and that included working with a couple of folks that are still out here today, Mrs. Longadai, Mrs. Lizette, hello, but certainly Ms. Kelder as well. And as someone that also sent 5 children, our 5 children through Riccardi, you know, we have a lot of sentimental ties to the school. So our heartfelt thanks to you, Kelder, Mrs. Kelder, and everything that you've been able to follow through on in the wonderful history and the tradition of Riccardi. Thank you so much. It's been very special to have had that chance to work with you. And lastly, I just want to thank a lot of excitement in probably the most snowless winter we've had in a number of years, but there's still a lot of excitement in the fact that Mr. Tiano was able to resurrect the ski club this year. And part of that excitement is also that we were able to include younger students moving into the lower grades. I know I had a lot of time to speak recently with Sarah Slutsky of Hunter Mountain, who now, you know, her grandfather was one of the architects of the mountain, and she now still works up there for Vail Resorts. She was thrilled to see the schools back up there on the mountain. Saugerties, Catskill is also up there on any given day. So if you're a skier, it's a small, relatively small community that it can be. I started skiing in 1980-81 school year in ski club when the advisor was Travis Tonzi. I could probably name countless advisors through the years, but that's how I got started. And to see kids participate in what is one of the, it is one of those lifetime sports in a lot of respects, because you can do it well past, well beyond high school and college age. That's nice to see that kind of a feeder program. So congratulations to Mr. Tiano and all those smiling, happy kids that we saw getting on the buses at the end of the day, Sunday. Thank you.
First and foremost, thank you, Mrs. Kelder, for your presentation today. It's awesome to kind of see all that green starting to show up, and the growth that the kids have had over the past year, and the continued growth even just this year. Personally, you know, congratulations on what could be your final year. And my stepdaughter was with you over at Mount Marion and loved you, and my daughter's here now and loves the school, and I thank you very much for everything you do. You know, the month of all the different crazy, you know, costumes and this and that was a little chaotic for a parent, but she loved it. But she definitely had a lot of fun with it, and I was like, a month long? But it was great. It was great. It's awesome to see these kids here kind of, you know, joining, like kind of what Bill was kind of saying, joining with the staff to kind of create a better environment, understanding what they need to do to kind of help themselves get to the next step. And I think that's really cool for them to kind of be involved in that. I think it gives them a sense of ownership, and that's a huge life lesson in its own. And I think that's something that isn't always necessarily given in schools. So I think it's great. I think it was great that the kids today, between the BLT and then your student government, all very well spoken, smiling. I know a lot of the kids, because my kids have gone here, so it was really cool to see that as well. And thank you very much for that. And lastly, thank you to the policy committee, because it looks like we've got a lot of policies to look at today. So you guys have been very busy. I do appreciate all the hard work you guys do to that, to kind of keep us moving in the right direction.
I also want to echo the sentiments. It was a great presentation. It was fun. I wish you luck. You're now the senior principal, and now you finally got to be the oldest one here, right? For the longest serving, anyway.
That's her cue.
I see it. You've installed a slide on the side of the building, and that's why you're going, right? So you can go down that every day. Congratulations, well deserved.
Anybody else? All right. Board President's remarks. When on Christmas Day, when my phone started to go off and I started to get these messages about Cahill, I was thinking, oh, thank God I'm retired from the school system, because I understand what those messages are like. I understand that, you know, Mr. Reinhardt, the maintenance staff, Shannon, all came in and, you know, not what you expect to do on Christmas Day. So, you know, kudos to those people that stepped up, and to their families for understanding that, you know, the greater good of the community, they needed to leave their families to come in to work that day. It's greatly, greatly appreciated. Thank you, Ms. Kelder, for the presentation tonight. I've known you quite a while, I think, probably 10 or 11 years since I've been on the board. I know you're dedicated. I know you'll be involved in the community, that you might be leaving the principalship, but I'm sure we'll see you around in Saugerties. There will be board seats if you want to choose to run. You know, if you missed the educational system. But I wish you well in whatever the next chapter of your life is going to be. You know, for the staff here and the PTA for welcoming us, it's always good to be out in the school. It's always good to you know, see the kids report. You know, things are great here. If anybody asks at Ricardi, I will testify to that. But I came here tonight and I saw a wonderful group of kids. I saw a wonderful group of parents, and things are working well. I think I also saw a mini Dan Ursig, if I. So, you know, hopefully you guys will be shooting movies together. And that's my remarks. So we will move into our next phase. I will entertain a motion for personnel. Items J, 1, 2, 3, and items K, 1, 2, and 3.
I call for roll call vote on item K.
Which one?
K1.
All right, so we will, let's get a break.
K1 and 2.
All right, so we'll go for, why don't we break it into items J, 1, 2, and 3. I'll do the motion.
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? None being heard, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I'll entertain a motion for items K, 1, and 2.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Colson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. McClary. Discussion? None being heard, would you call the roll for this vote? Okay.
Robert Tobin,
Yes.
James Mooney,
Abstain.
William Ball,
Yes.
Krista Barringer,
Coming out.
Christine Della Rosa,
Yes.
Susan Gage,
Yes.
Raymond McClary,
Yes.
Scott Holston,
Yes.
Timothy Wells.
Yes.
Motion carried. 7 yes, 1 abstain.
All right, and I'll entertain a motion for K3. Moved by Mrs. Gage. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Mooney. Discussion?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Scott's on this. Does he have to, K3, right?
So it's
Yes.
Am I looking for one?
Yeah,
K3. And the volunteers.
Yeah, there's a, Mr. Ball sent me an email, a question about this, and I talked with the attorney. There's nothing to prohibit a board member from volunteering as long as they're an approved volunteer and they're on the agenda. You know, what you bring forth is disclosure that you have 2 board members listed as volunteers, and that's okay. You can do that, any board member can do that, or the board members themselves can do that, but it's okay.
No, it's fine. I just didn't know if like we had to. No worries.
No, that's fine. Thanks for bringing it up.
And we discussed in advance, at least I had suggested to, I've been off and on as a ski club chaplain for off and on for many years. And my participation is exclusively as a volunteer, as a chaperone for the activities. And it's, again, something that I certainly appreciate having the opportunity to do and look forward to continuing to do.
Anyone else? If not, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Item L, business office recommendations. I'll entertain a motion for L1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Wells. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Ball. Discussion?
I just have a quick question on L5, the surplus resolution. The getting rid of the 46 Texas instrument calculators. Are we getting rid of them because they're obsolete or non-functioning? Non-functioning?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any further discussion? None being heard, I'll call for a vote. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Board action items, I'll entertain a motion for items 1M, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Miller, second by Ms. Gage. Discussion? Mr. Ball?
I just had a few questions. I don't want to hold up the entire motion here, but I had a couple of questions regarding policy or perhaps clarifications. In the policy regarding the safety plans, school safety plans.
One moment. Can you use Tim's mic? Try this one.
I can also go without it. In the policy regarding school safety plan, there's a reference to, something that I think is very, very granular and very specific, which is, kind of prompted my question. It asked specifically that a school safety team is going to investigate the use of a panic alarm or the consideration of the purchase of a panic alarm. It was really just something that stood out when I was reading the work of the policy committee because it was such a very specific and granular item as opposed to policy, almost even directive oriented. So I just wanted to ask if there's a specific reason that that's included in the policy, or is it just part of the ongoing discussion about having those in the schools?
There was a law that was passed over the summer. I forget the full name of it. What was it? Alyssa's law, which encouraged having panic alarms.
Okay.
So it's directly from that.
So when we include in policy, we're including that we are going to have a panic alarm, or that we're at least just going to consider it?
We're going to consider it.
Okay, thank you. The only other question I had was regarding the concussion management policy. And I know a lot of times these recommendations come from the attorneys, or they come from area one BOCES, or then a combination of thereabouts. But they mentioned that within this, for all the staff training that would take place regarding concussion management and identification and things along those lines, that there'd be a designated staff member to track that. And again, it just struck me that that seemed to be a little more regulatory and operational as opposed to policy oriented. So whereas the board might create a policy that says, the administration will have a concussion management protocol, et cetera, it seems like that was just getting a little too granular and too directive for a policy. So I just wanted to, ask if there was any sentiment behind that, or if it's, again, it's just a draft. Those are my considerations and thoughts I wanted to share.
Yeah, so that is kind of our current practice. We track that. So, I should go back and find where the regulation where if it's mandatory or not.
Thank you.
Anyone else? None being heard, I'll call for a vote. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Board discussion items, special permissions, Ms. Coloroso, I think that's your item.
Yeah, I thought it was important to talk about special permissions this month, have it added to the agenda, because I agree when Mr. Reinhardt said in our August meeting that this is an area that should be a discussion item for the board this year. And the annual letter usually goes out in January, as it did last year. So before it goes out this year, I thought it was important to discuss the policy and its its implementation, and potentially establishing a committee or task force to look into the specifics of the policy. There's several issues that I thought needed to be examined, specifically the unlicensed daycare requests which are across the attendance zones. So if the goal of this policy is to assist families with transportation to before and after care, and there's available space for a child in the classroom, should equity in class size across the district be a reason for not granting special permission? If the policy is going to be used to manage class size, a letter to parents, I believe, should be made more clear as to the criteria used to permit or deny the application. And whether it's acceptable for students in the same household to be treated differently as to whether permission is granted, as there were cases this year where only one sibling was initially approved their request. And should parents be given a definitive decision prior to the start of the school year, as there were cases this year where families were not granted their permissions until early October, although there was space available in the class prior to the start of the school year? And then how do we ensure equity between the licensed and unlicensed daycare opportunities within the established boundaries for our elementary schools? Those are the things that I think need to be addressed this year in the application of special permissions.
Anyone else?
Any discussion or?
Yeah, discussion.
Go ahead. Yeah, you can have it. Try not to ruin Mr. Wells' mic. Is that one? Okay. So I tried to educate myself recently into this particular policy, and I read the policy and reviewed the school transportation page, where it outlines daycare, the provisions for daycare transportation and things along those lines. And, without myself getting granular and knowing all the ins and outs of how these decisions are made, as, I'm sure they begin making the decisions after April 1st when the requests first come in. But it strikes me that some of the questions are ultimately surrounding the differences between policy, procedure, or plans that are developed based upon policy, and then actual practice. And we oftentimes talk in education about those 3 Ps or those 4 Ps, and really making really clear distinction between each of them. The policy is a little bit more of a global document, and it talks about what our aims are and what it is we're hoping to do. So, in trying to educate myself as to what the questions are, it strikes me that ultimately that may be the crux of an issue, if there is an issue surrounding these questions, that it's simply a difference between the policy, the actual procedures or plans that are developed as a result of the policy or from the policy, and then, practice and implementation. So, when I'm looking at this, I think that if there's any question about what it is that we intend as a board, I really think that it's just a recommendation that this policy should go back to the policy committee for review. It is really kind of what it strikes me should be happening. Thank you.
So, Mr. McClure, we can add that for review at the policy committee at some point. Anyone else? Okay. Committee reports, audit committee. Ms. Barringer, she's remote. Do we have a date for the next meeting, Jay?
No, I want to check with our internal auditor. He's finishing up an audit, so that way we can meet to do more than one thing. So I'll get with Krista as soon as I get some dates from him.
Okay, thank you. Facilities, Mr. Mooney?
Yeah, basically it was, buttoning things up and going over Cahill and how, very pleased we were with I don't know if I'm allowed to say the name. Am I? Surf Pro. Just Randy, everybody that came together, Jeremy and their crews. It was just really awesome. Our next meeting will be February 1st, and the biggest news to come from the facilities meeting is that there is a new start time. 5 o'clock, correct?
Yes?
We're going to start at 5. We're going to start a half an hour later so more people can attend because of work conflicts with the students. And that's it. Our next meeting is February 1st.
And if I can just add one thing? Sure. We're hoping that the bid documents, I know there's been a pretty good call on the bid documents, and if things go well, we're hoping to present those bids to the board for award in February, which is really exciting for the work that will kick off this spring.
So the bid opening is the 2nd.
So the bid opening is February 2nd with recommendations to the board on the 14th.
And more bids are coming in than previous, right? I just didn't want to jinx
it. Policy Committee, Mr. McClure.
First, I'd like to thank Mr. Ursic for keeping us moving when I couldn't make the meeting. Really appreciate that. And we have our first meeting the 17th of the secondary level dress code with some student involvement, and that's at 2:20 in the senior high library. 2:20 to 3. So that should be interesting to get some first-hand information from the students, what they see as problematic or distracting or important. Looking forward to that. And that's about it.
Thank you. Public recognition. Anybody from the public wishing to address the board, please approach the podium.
I don't need a mic. My husband's gone. But I do want to say one thing, like Carol said. I am probably the eye that you see come down the road in the morning, and I'm a big safety nut. And I've been a safety nut since I bought that house 41 years ago. And when I had to walk my kids down every single day with snow on both sides of the road. And that's why I've been trying to do a little bit of, tweaking of how things should be and what shouldn't be, because when you have snow and you have walkers and you have bus, and now we have, I don't want to talk about the cars, because if we could get the kids on the bus, we wouldn't have the cars. And I gotta watch, because my husband, I told him I really wanted to talk tonight because of this. My life has been this school, and I've only been employed only 24 years, but I've been here 40. And I can actually say that I've worked with Carol through 3rd grade, 6th grade, and many grades. And I've worked through a lot of people in this district, Sue, and I have a voice, and you know I have a voice. And I dot my I's, and I cross my T's. And Bill, you know, we've had many fights in that office when you were the principal here. Just like Mike Miller and my brother. Don't tell me, but I'm just saying, we have to watch for the safety of these kids coming down the street. We had a drone here in the end of, I want to say maybe May. My husband just probably passed that door. And all I can say right now is I want to know what they thought was right. Because I've lived here, I know what's right. I've had 2 kids come through the school. I've had a lot of neighbors that I still protect in this district because they're still my kids. And I want to thank you guys for all you do, because it's a thankless job. I've been a volunteer for many years. And Bob, you knew my brother was a big volunteer too. And that's my family. But thank you. Mr. Reinhardt, I went to school with your brother. He was, and let me tell you something, when Mr. Ball talked about the Slutskys, I used to with the suit on, old man Slutsky, I think his name was, I don't know. I worked in Yallams in 1978 and 79. And I many a times had a Slutsky family come down for many a balls. So thank you very much. And I can't thank you enough for all you do, as well as you guys over there. I miss being the webmaster, but I love my free time. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a tough act to follow, but we'll try. Taking this vote to recess into executive session.
Oh, he came in.
So moved by Mrs. Gage, is there a second? Second by Ms. Bellarosa. Discussion, none being heard, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you for coming out tonight. We're going to go into exec session. We're just going to come out to adjourn the meeting. There'll be no further vote. So moved. Moved by Mr. Poston, second by Mr. Wall. Any discussion on the mural call for roll? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I will entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Gage, second.
Second.
Second by me. Mr. Wells. Discussion on the mural call for roll. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Good night.